If you want to know exactly where the bluefin tuna and yellowfin tuna are right now, stay tuned for this episode of the Science of Fishing. We've got the fishing report provided by Canyon Runner Maps to show you guys exactly precise coordinates of where these fish are being caught over the last week. This is the first of many fishing reports that we're going to be doing with Canyon Runner, so stay tuned.
Welcome to the Science of Fishing, where we break down the bite. Before we get started, big shout out to our sponsor, Bloody Battery, for powering this episode.
All right, everyone, welcome to the inaugural Science of Fishing by Canyon Runner, incorporating the Canyon Runner map powered by VIAM. Hopefully we go through several of these this year because we're going to be looking at a ton of good fishing. We pushed off the start of the first one because the fishing started a little bit slower. And when I say fishing, what we're going to cover is everything from marlin to swordfish, but primarily tuna fishing up and down the coast. And as we get later into the season, the things will change. But we're going to kick it off with a little bit about explaining what this map is. This is going to take us through everything. We're basically going to review the film just like a football team does on a Monday. We're going to review the film for the last weeks of fishing, and we're going to use our map to do it as we go through some of the bells and whistles. The first thing we do with the map, though, as always, when we're going to talk about, hey, what are we going to do fishing-wise the next few days, is look at the weather. We're also going to look at the weather a little bit to see what's going on with the water temperature, because when it comes to finding the fish that we're going to be targeting, tunas, marlin, swordfish, it's all about the water temperature, chlorophyll, eddies, the Gulf Stream, all of that. But it all starts with the weather. We always zoom out. We're going to be focusing on the East Coast, Mid-Atlantic, New England. But we always zoom out to the big picture. We want to see what's coming across the United States. Is a big Bermuda high going to set up? Are we going to have some sort of low pressure system? So this is our map. This is our wind. We have a whole bunch of different weather things throughout the season. You'll see a bunch of them. But we just like to scroll through and look at what we got coming across. Do we have a big high pressure system? Is there any big change in the weather pattern? What we've had so far this year, folks, is colder water, colder than normal, a Gulf Stream that hasn't really done much yet, no eddies, and colder weather. Anyone who's been in the Mid-Atlantic or Northeast the last several weekends have known that it's just been brutal weather up here. Well, look, here's Saturday. We've got this big high pressure system. You could see it back here over the United States. It's coming through. By the way, these are all our boats. There's some 600 boats, part of our Canyon Runner coaching and concierge membership, including about 25 pro staff. We can hide these boats. We'll just shut them off for a second so we can see the weather a little bit better. See that high pressure system? It's right in here. These are just the pro staff boats now, and you can see what's happening Friday, Saturday. What we do often, and look, we don't forecast weather out this far. You'll hear us say this, like forecasted weather over the water is only accurate 24 hours out, but sometimes we'll look at the big picture. And we'll just put New York because it's kind of the center between New England, Mid-Atlantic, down to the Carolinas. Let's look what's going on with the New York weather. Finally. And it almost happens like clockwork. First day of summer, magically we get into kind of summer weather pattern, and boats will finally able to start putting some pressure offshore, finding some of these fish. It's been slower, yes, but there also hasn't been a lot of coverage because we just didn't have the weather. Well, we're getting a break. So we'll have some good coverage in all areas on this next podcast. But what we had, and the reason why we wanted to do it, is we had this. Let's pull this. This is a week's worth. So up here in our track history, this is all our boats and all they fish from the 9th to the 18th. The boats on the map right now are fishing right now. We've got boats that have been fishing all the way up to Jeffries and Stellwagen, right down the coast. Each one of these dots gives you a little bit more specific information. And we've got boats down in the Carolinas. We had boats fishing the Big Rock. Our pro staff has been fishing down all the way down in Walkers and working their way up. The Taylor Jean, Captain Blaine Birch, has been fishing tournament by tournament to be placed in the Walkers. Did really well. He actually won the Walkers, has done well working up this way. These are his track lines. But starting off the Carolinas, let's get into the fishing now. These are two pro staff boats. Captain Greg Mayer on the Fishing Frenzy has been with us for years. They've been fishing since January down here, right? It's been bluefins. January, February, March, April, and now they had the yellowfins. And what we see with the way the tuna fish kind of migrate up the coast, we keep our eyes on this Outer Banks fishing the entire year. But we start to see when they're starting to pick away at the yellowfins. And they usually start to see this is, by the way, this is New Jersey Seabirds is blamed. This is where he fished during the Big Rock. This is where the fishing frenzy is right now today. If you just click on here, and by the way, some of the other things, and you're going to get used to this. This call is going to be a little bit more just getting used to the map. But if you click on our boats, you can see the actual sea temperature he's fishing in right now, his depth, and what's really cool, because we got sick and tired of all the NOAA buoys being down all the time. Any one of our boats that has a Starlink, we're pulling real-time wave height and duration. So anyway, when the yellowfin fishing started, they were always down here. Every trip was down here for all of April. And as you got into May, it was basically all in here. Now look, this is from the last week or so. There's a lot more hits up in this direction. The fish have slowly migrated north. And as we watch these fish for the last couple of weeks, we kept making notes. And a couple of our pro staff out of Virginia Beach did some of their trips, came down here. 000s, the 900 line had fish, and the fish slowly moved north. Now, if you go look at the water temperature charts, let me swing back to that one. Here's one of our water temperature charts. Now, look, with water temperature, I'm going to put it on this map so we can just see the general. We go over here, we hit sea temp. This is a composite chart. We don't like composite charts. We'll explain why. There has basically been cloud cover for the last 6 days. These temperatures are going to give you a general idea, but what water temperature services all do, including ours, this is off our map. If you've got cloud cover for 5 days, well, these are temperatures from 5 days ago. But this kind of tells the story. This 74, 73 degree water 2 weeks ago, the line was down here. It slowly moved up. The fish slowly moved up. Starting middle of last week, what we had, though, is not this 71 again. This is 6, 7 days old. But it was in the Norfolk Canyon to the Washington. We started to see 68 degree temperatures, and the yellowfin basically just slowly migrated their way up the bank, up the bank, the 100 fathom line, 80 to 150 fathoms. They slowly moved north. The Norfolk had fish early in this time period, the previous weekend per se. Then all of a sudden, it was halfway between the Norfolk and the Washington. Then it was the Washington. And as we had no wind and warmer temperature all last week, we saw the fish every day push 5, 10 miles north every day. And if you clicked on these dots, and if you went to the individual trips, each boat, you could see boats like Captain Marcus of the Marley did 4 trips in a row, did great on almost all those trips, but each day he never went back to where he was the day before. The water was slowly warming up south to north. He was moving 5 miles north each day. Then, interesting happened. We had some weather. We had a blow Sunday to Monday. Everything, it blew. It churned everything up. Guys got out there. This was Tuesday, the 17th. They got out there and magically, and this is see if we can pull, this is a more detailed shot. So this shot, unfortunately, and this is what we do. We go to our settings. We actually can get, if you go over here, you have 7 different satellites. There's 5 different satellites we can choose from. 3 of them give us 2 shots a day or night. So we have 8 satellite shots every day to pick from. I did this before we started the call, so we didn't waste the time. Unfortunately, this is the most accurate shot. We still have all cloud cover and fog here, so we don't really know what the temperature was. But what we were able to do is, again, click on our boats and pull the temperature. Now, you saw a few days ago, it was almost 70 right in this spot. Yesterday morning, this is basically 10 miles above the Washington. Here's the Poor Man's. By the way, if you click over here, you get each canyon pops up, the location. This is the South Poor Man's right here, Washington. Right here in the morning yesterday was 64, 65 degrees. Nothing was going on. The water had chilled off and also pushed offshore. By the time we got to like 11 or noon, the water warmed up a little bit, got back up to 66, 67, and the boat started catching. Boats started catching here. Before the water cooled off, everyone was moving their way up to the Poor Man's. because that's actually, but yesterday morning when boats, and then we actually thought there was some fish caught up here in the Baltimore Canyon. We thought, here's the Baltimore right here. We thought with the pattern 5 to 10 mile north a day, starting last Thursday, these fish would be in the Baltimore, cooled off. They literally turned around and went back down south. Now,
ready to see the water like never before? Shady Rays is giving out an amazing deal for the season. Go to shadyrays.com and use code SCIENCE for 35% off. Hit the water with confidence in Shady Rays sunglasses built to cut glare and deliver pro-level clarity. Their polarized lenses sharpen your vision so you can spot every ripple and movement even in harsh light. Lightweight and ultra comfortable, they stay put no matter how rough the conditions. And with lost and broken protection, you're covered from day one. Not satisfied? Return or exchange for free within 30 days, no risk. Go to shadyrays.com and use code SCIENCE for 35% off.
that's not to say our boats here right now aren't picking occasionally, but the line's basically right here. There's a line where it goes from basically 66, 67 to 68 to 70, and the fish are right on this line. And I'm kind of harping on that and what went on down here to explain, like, it's going to be a lot about water because the water pushes in the fish. And let's touch on that and let's look at the big picture. One of the things we do for big picture is we pull, best way to do it is we put Rutgers, for anyone who know, has shots that are free, composite shots every day. Right now, Rutgers has a really nice composite shot, no cloud cover. This is brand new. And I say Rutgers, by the way, look, folks, it's the same satellites. There's 6 or 7 satellites up there. They're all pulling the same. But you can see from this shot, this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a Gulf Stream that is right here. It is very far to the east where it normally is. It normally would kind of come up this way and curve. This is the Gulf Stream right here. You can see the temperatures in the 80s. This is an actual shot from Tuesday the 17th. And then here's the big issue. It is flat as a pancake. Normally, we like to see a Gulf Stream that kind of has a bulge, comes up here, and another bulge comes up here. Unfortunately, it's flat right now. But what we have under here, this is an eddy here. We know it. Here's another eddy here. An eddy is something that rotates clockwise like this. A good size one is 100 to 150 miles in diameter. And it will rotate like this, and it will push up the bank. And it's starting to do this. It is starting to push water. It's kind of rotating and spinning off the eddy up onto the bank. Here are some of the places that any day now are going to go off. We know through our friends in the commercial fishing world, the longliners are starting to set up here. The longliners are setting all on this edge. They're catching mostly giants, but they're starting to see a few big eyes, a few swordfish. And this water hopefully is going to keep pushing in and filtrating in. The eddy right here, and we kind of measure it every day. It's from Munson's Canyon. This is the edge of the eddy. It's now 55 miles. A week ago, it was 100. It looks like, and this is kind of the best. I'm really just seeing this. We're just seeing this as we're doing this podcast here. This is some of the best news we've seen in a while, really, for the whole season to finally take off. And that's really your big picture. Let's drill down a little bit more as we move up the coast to some other things going on. Now, this is a week's worth of information. I think we're going to pull this down. Let's just look at the last 2 days. We go in here, we apply this, and we'll look at the last 2 days' track lines. It's a lot of boats. We had a tournament fishing out of Beach Haven. What everyone wants to know, and normally we're not stuck on the 100 fathom line. Most of what we do, folks, I'd say 75% of what we'll report on, hopefully the rest of the year, is tuna from 10 miles to 50 miles offshore. Once the marlins show up, we'll talk about that too. But right now, there's just not a lot to talk about when it comes to the tunas that close. We had an area in here called Sea Isle Ridge, and there's an area called the Cigar. If we just click on these, here's Sea Isle Ridge, Cigar's out here. Sea Isle Ridge had a decent medium bluefin bite about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it's kind of slowed up a lot. There are, however, you can see all the track lines of boats going back and forth. So there's a lot of people constantly looking. Most of these track lines are during daylight. There was a couple fish around the cigar. There's a couple fish around the elephant trunk. But if you want to drill down to what's really going on, unfortunately, there's been maybe a couple fish every other day within range. And I'm talking not per boat, the total fleet. Couple bluefins every other day within range of everything from basically Cape May North all the way up until you get Cape Cod Bay. Now, look, it's going to change. We just wrote a mass email to our members last night. For decades, from really the early 1990s through like 2010, the Canyon Runner's first tuna trip of the year was always the first day of summer. There was never tuna anywhere but out in the Hudson Canyon, or at least that's where we went. We had the same charter, wanted to go to the Hudson for the first day of summer. And those were the first tuna caught, and they were always in the Hudson. And lo and behold, on June 18th, you could see a couple boats out there right now. And lo and behold, there's bluefins in the Hudson. There have been a ton of effort by a ton of great boats. These are well-known areas, the Triple Rex, the hills of the Triple Rex. This is the Chicken Canyon in here. There's been boats fishing in the lanes every day. Some of the best running and gunning captains around have fished 10, 15, 20 trips and maybe have one fish to their name. It just hasn't started yet, but it will. As we move offshore here, a couple days ago, there was, say, a fish here. Then we had boats go right back out, nothing. The giant tuna fleet is putting in some time on areas called Habs Ledge, CIA grounds. Up in these areas is traditionally where you will see the giants caught. They're looking for life. They're trying to fish. There's just not much going on. As you move east, same thing. Not much going on. We had some amazing squid fishing going on down here south of Nantucket. We thought the tunas actually might settle in here, but that kind of thinned out. There hasn't been much effort at all. The boats are going, just not a ton of effort, because when the boats do go, they don't see them. And when we move around here, we've got a little bit now. Look, the tunas are migrating. They clearly migrated, because I'll fill in something up here. Let me get back to this main chart. They have been migrating north. If you see this effort from the past week, we have 2 pro staff fishing out of Gloucester. They're starting their commercial giant tuna season, and they are seeing fish. All these targets in here, there's Jeffries, there's Stellwagen, up in here. They've had fish in on these areas multiple days. The harpooners have done very well. They're just not getting the bites on the rod and reel yet. Yes, there's some fish being caught. But the most interesting thing was, and our pro staff, both Brian on the Willow Gray and Rob on the Four Seas, have reiterated, everyone's seeing a lot of the schoolies. It's a little early for it, but they're seeing a lot. They're seeing them up in here on Stellwagen, on kind of right in the middle of Stellwagen. They've seen them up on Jeffries. There is a lot of school bluefin up in that area, which is a little early. Normally, that's like a first week of July type of thing. It bodes well for you folks up here. It's a little disconcerting for everyone down here waiting for those bluefins to show up. Because again, as we zoom out and look at the actual water temperature shot, we can see no eddies, no eddies. What we need is an eddy kind of somewhere up here that's then going to push blue water in here to areas like the dump in Suffolk where you can get the yellowfins in here. So everyone's just patiently awaiting those bluefins to pop up in here. If they've already migrated up this way, because these folks are seeing them up here, that could be an issue. There's been a couple caught east of Nantucket as well recently. Last year, that was a very, very disappointing year for any of these fish out here. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it was lights out. Maybe by the fact that they're seen up here already, these fish are just going to stay up in this pocket. But again, as of June 18th, there's really not much going on. As for that right now, because of this, we're going to pull back and we're just going to look at, what do we expect? What's the future going to hold? So we started this explaining how these yellowfins are slowly moving up the bank. We mentioned that we have a couple ways. We have some pretty good ties to the commercial fishing fleet. Several of our pro staff do a little bit of that. We've had former canyon runner captains or full-time commercial fishermen. We know through the squid draggers, which is some of our best intel, they literally had the best fishing they've had this time of year, maybe ever. And they've been doing it for decades with a haul of squid just last week from the Spencer Canyon right here down to the Baltimore. This is loaded with squid. Now, it's another reason why a lot of boats ran up here to the Baltimore the other day, but the water cooled off. What we think is going to happen over the next week or two when we get on here and do our next podcast, as the water continues to move up from the south, it's decent enough water. It's not blue Gulf Stream water. It wouldn't be holding marlin if it was marlin season yet, but it's good enough for the yellowfins. 65 up here, 64, 65. Look, that's what happened yesterday when this chilled down. The fish weren't in it. They're in the 68 to 70. So we don't expect to see anything up here yet. All right, where all this blue stuff is clouds and fog. And then we know from our boats that are fishing in this area, here's 67, 68 right here. A couple fish were caught here. This is going to continue to warm up. The fish are going to continue to migrate north. It's their normal migratory pattern. We see it every year for the 40 years we've been doing this. And they'll push north slowly. And then, based on what we know from those commercial guys, they may just sit here and camp out for a while. Which, as all you folks know, that South Jersey, Maryland, Delaware, you've had some horrible tuna fishing the last several years. This would be great news. Welcome news. And look, the Spencer's in range of anyone from New Jersey as well. For you Long Island folks, I think it's going to be Eastern Long Island block. You're going to have all the folks out of Rhode Island and Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, Alton Point Judith. You're going to have to run and make a run for the yellowfins, but you'll have them in range. 4th of July weekend, there'll be water up here and oceanographers and hydrographers and Veatch, hopefully. Look, this right here, it's the leading edge of some decent water. I'm going to leave you on one last thing. As we scroll through here, it's not just water temperature, it's chlorophyll. So this right here is our chlorophyll satellite shot. I'm going to turn that up and turn the water down. You see the blue, this is the Gulf Stream, how deep, dark blue it is, okay? Now, we know you can just see a little bit of it here because this is all clouds, but this is one of the eddies here, dark, dark blue. Under these clouds are the other one. This is dark, dark blue water. This water is more than good enough to hold tunas. It's not going to be marlin water, but it's more than good enough to hold tunas. It's still out a significant distance from the 100-fathom line. That's still 44 miles, but if this can push in to the bank, we've got some water up here. It's still too cold. It's going to be bluefin water, but if we can get some of this 67, 69 degree water, that's blue, to just move another 60 miles, right? If that could just push a little bit north, if the Gulf Stream itself could just all push north, everyone on this line will have fish. That is good enough. 68 degree water, and it's blue enough to hold tunas. The Gulf Stream is so powerful, it could just, and you see this off of Florida, right? It ebbs and flows every day. It could move 5-10 miles in and out every day. The whole Gulf Stream could just push up 40 miles in 3 or 4 days. Don't see that happening that quickly, but we do see July 4th weekend. I think we're going to have boats all along this line, all catching fish. So I hope you enjoyed the first segment of this. Any questions, you can always reach out. Info@Canyon Runner. And thanks, everyone. Science of Fishing. We love this. We hope to do a bunch more. Take care, folks. Have a great week of fishing.
Thank you, Adam, for providing us that holistic view of where the fish are this last week. If you guys want to know where the fish are in real time, go to canyonrunner.com, go sign up, talk to Adam and Dean, and they'll get you all worked out on their platform to be on there live and know exactly where the fish are being caught in real time. If not, until next time, we'll see you guys on the next fishing report with Canyon Runner on the Science of Fishing. See you later, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to the Science of Fishing. We hope you picked up something for the next time you're wetting a line. Before we cast off, big thanks to our sponsors for keeping us hooked. Stay dialed in by following us at Science of Fishing. Hit subscribe and share with your crew. Until next time, catch 'em up.